You get caught out. Welcome everyone to CPMP 10-year anniversary celebration parties. Thank you very much for coming today. And first of all, I would like to thank all of you to spend this lovely evening with us. Cheers. To be seated with us has the president of the CPMP, Amy Xu. Over there. We have Shen Jianlei coming from Consul General of the People's Republic of China in Toronto. We will also like to invite the two of the guests from Chen Yingning from the President of China Association for International Exchange of Professionals, Canada and colleagues. Our longtime friends and supporters, our City Council, Qin Li. Mr. Bob Aggie is the president of the PMI Southern Ontario chapter. Thank you, all of them. But among with the VIPs, I would also like to take the time to thank all the sponsors. Without them, we will not be able to make it tonight. We would like to send our special thanks to Andrew Lee that from Homeline New World. Susan Lee from the Holy Wealth of the Scotia Bank. Fred Xiang from AIM Home Real Estate. Now I would like to invite two very special gentlemen to the stage. First of all is Howard Hung. He is the CPMP past president. He owns the title for MBA from the Roman School, and he also currently working at RBC as a program manager. Can I have Howard on the stage? The next one's man owns a lot of titles. Please bear with me the time. Okay, next one I would like to invite Mr. Kelvin Tran to the stage. He is a Senior Vice President and a Chief Auditor at the TD Bank Group. Kevin also has the overall responsible for the plannings, executions, and the reporting of the auditings. Among all of these, he's been within TD Bank for over 14 years in progressively senior roles, including Head of Enterprise Decision Support, Treasury, and Balance Sheet Management, and Chief Accountant. And both of them will share a great moment with us tonight. Thank you.
Hello. So we're going to start our keynote speech today. I thought this actually at 7:30, but it's okay. Let's start with the good things first. First I'd like to thank you, Kelvin Tran, to spend your precious time to join us tonight to share your successful and inspiring experience. So probably you can imagine when they asked me to become the interviewer or the moderator for this session, I've done my homework. And it's not hard to do a research and find information about Kelvin Tran because he's such a successful leader and executive in the industry. And I want to go a little bit deeper than that, than what I can find in the internet. So one of the things inspiring when doing the research is that he's like most of us. He did not grow up with a silver spoon in the mouth. He's actually not grow up in a rich family, have a private school, and get a lot of support in the early stage. He's actually come here as a boy after survive 6 days in the ocean in the refugee camp in Southeast Asia, and it's very inspiring. So Kelvin, do you mind to share us so what life is like when you arrive in Canada, and how do you manage to be such a successful career in Canada? What's the secret?
Thank you. First of all, I just want to say congratulations to all of you before I answer that question, if I may. It takes a lot of leadership to come together to create an organization such as CMP and then to celebrate your success. So congratulations to all of you. Big hand. I think my story is not different than many of you. I'm Chinese descent, but I was born in Vietnam. And at the time, you're not allowed to leave the country legally, right? So, or actually you have to have a lot of money to leave the country legally. And so we got onto a boat, sailed into the sea, spent 6 days there, got rescued, spent time in the refugee camp, and then was lucky that I was sponsored by my uncle here in Montreal. That's where I grew up. And so I think from that perspective, we are all recent immigrants. I'm not so recent anymore. And something that makes me think about is all the Syrian refugees that are now going through this tough time. And if you think about what they're going through with a lot of the help from people around here, they could be very successful as well. So I would say my journey here is, my parents, when they came to Canada, they lost everything, right? So they don't have any money. Although my dad spoke English and French fluently, and he writes and reads and speaks fluently, he wasn't able to get a job because he didn't have Canadian experience, nor did he have Canadian degrees. So he was working in manufacturing, like my mom, minimum wage. And they were doing 2 jobs. We have 4 kids to feed. In the day he would be working, building TVs at Sanyo. And at night he would be cleaning the office buildings. A lot of the office buildings that we are now in, so lucky that it's clean. It's done by a lot of the hard work, like people like my dad. So I owe everything to them for what I have today. And I would say in terms of just striving for what you do, I didn't go out thinking I'm going to be a senior executive or whatever, right? Like I remember when I was studying, like all the Asian parents, you have to get A+. Actually, A is not good. Clap. I think that's. It's funny. I have 2 young kids, and my wife would just, she's on my kids all the time. What do you mean you got an 80? Like this is bad. And so you strive for the best. You always, my mom she didn't focus too much on the marks, but she would say, every one of us have a different talent. Go figure out what your talent is and don't waste it, right? And so I think that's what we need to do. I didn't go to private school, like you said, and I didn't strive for any executive role. I remember at the time, my first job that I wanted to get was, no disrespect to anybody here, like a government job. Like my mom says, hey, if you get a government job, you have good benefits, and you're going to earn a good living. The government didn't want me. I couldn't find a government job, and luckily I got into. I'm a chartered accountant. Now they call it chartered professional accountant, CPA. And so I article at Deloitte, and then came to TD, and that's how my career grew.
Well, that's great. Thanks.
Was that too long as an answer?
Thank you. So my next question is about career development. So I saw a lot of young people down there. So when we talk about career development, there's always 2 choices. Like when the people number one, they want to go back to school to get more education, to get more certification. The other approach is like Bill Gates, Steve Jobs. They didn't finish their school, and they want to just go right into work and get more like a working experience. So what's can you give us some advice about education versus like a working experience, especially when you talk about education, how would you choose those like professional certification like CA, CPA, CGA, CMA, MBA, a bunch of A, and then finally PMP? Yeah. So how would you thought on those like certification, to help the people grow their career?
That's a really good question because that's a question I get a lot in various settings. The way I think about it is never be extreme in life, right? Like, a lot of people go, Apple is good and that's all they eat. Well, don't do that, right? So if you think about studies, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, those are good examples, but I don't think they're great examples because what we don't talk about is all those people who didn't succeed when they don't finish university, right? And so we think about that's the 0.00001% of the population, and those are phenomenal people, and I think they would do wonderful and fantastic no matter what they do. And I would say then the other way to look at it is then don't go to the extreme and think about education is going to help you. It does help you. When people ask me that question, is it good? I say, of course it's good. If you're learning something, of course it is good. But we have limited time, right? You all have family, you have kids, you have boyfriend, girlfriend. So you have limited amount of time, and so the question is, what is the best use of your time? And it all depends on where you are in your career right now, and what do you want to achieve. I remember a very, very bright staff of mine about 10 years ago, and he said, I'm gonna go back, I'm gonna do my MBA because that's gonna help me with my next career. And I said, well, that's good, but you already have a good job. You're a CA, you're strong technically, and a lot of these degrees are helping you to get a foot in the door. So your foot is already in the door, your both feet are already in the door. And so the best use of your time now is actually spending time on work experience. Because if you think about school, let's say MBA, that would take you, 10 hours a week? If you take 10 hours a week, and if you tell your boss and you say, hey, I'm willing to spend 10 extra hours a week on special projects, I guarantee you learn 10 times as much as your MBA. And the reason is a few things, right? Number one, you're learning on the job. Number two, you're helping your boss, which is very important to your career. Because people need work to be done, right? And that's a lot of the things that I was able to accomplish is because I did special projects here and there. You learn because of special projects or when you're in committee work, you're doing something that none of your colleagues do, right? You go into your work and you do this, and somebody else would do that. Very few people work on special projects, very few people work on committees. And so now you're building on a skill that very few people have, and that makes you special. And then third, as you're working on these committees or these special projects, you're actually interacting and you're networking with very different people within the company. And as you know, relationship building is extremely important in the workplace. And nothing can replace a relationship that you build through work. Right? Like I emphasize work because you can always build relationship through networking and stuff, but networking doesn't help because all you know is somebody's hobby and what they tell you about where they spend their time at a cottage while you're having a glass of wine. Relationships that are important are relationships that you work with individuals, you're working through challenges, and that individual can tell other people how good you are in the work that you do. That's the relationship that you want to build. That's going to help build your brand.
So the education is really getting to the door, and then taking the work and really about the attitude you do the work, and as well as the building your network, in the work will take you to the next step.
Yeah, like a lot of I don't know. I've been hiring a lot of people over the years. Other than people who come in at the entry level, I don't look at their education at all. At all. What I do is I look at their experience, I talk to them about their work, try to get to know them to make sure that it's a good fit in the culture, in the bank's culture. And I ask for references. I spend a lot of time on references because those are the people who know how they perform when it's a stressful environment. And that to me is much more important than a degree. you know, yeah, no disrespect to my wife, you know, like, no matter how good you are in school, it doesn't matter to me, it's how well you apply it at work. And work is so much more complicated than a score on your test.
That makes more sense, yeah, thanks. I want to continue the career topic. So a lot of successful people also, quite often when they look back, they always mention about there's somebody, there's a mentor helping them in the early stage, and it's very important. So both CPMP and Ascend, the organization you founded, have a mentorship program. So what's your advice how we can find the right mentor in our career development?
So mentor is very important to your career. If you don't have a mentor, you're pretty much stuck in the job that you do. Because when I first started, I just wanted to do well in my work. I just focus on my task, and they say, hey, do this and that. And then, but also I'm different from a lot of my colleagues. I go, oh, well, why do you guys do it this way? I disagree, and I always challenge my boss and the people around me, and that got me speaking to a lot of people. And where I am today is entirely based on all of my mentors. None of them are formal. Like, there's nobody that I ask, oh, do you want to be my mentor? Or anybody who comes in and says, you are my mentee. Like, there's no such thing. But I would call it like they're my guardian angels or whatever. Like somebody who saw something in me and say, hey, I think he could succeed really well, and I'm going to help him. And those are the individuals who have navigated through the organization. They know how things get done in that company. And I emphasize company because each company does things differently. And so I could be very successful at TD, but if I go to RBC, I actually may do very badly because it's a very different culture. So it really depends on how adaptable I am. And your mentors are the people who understand the culture, how things are done in the organization. And they'll help you, they'll give you advice, they'll give you information. Information in a big organization is so important. I hear about things before they're official all the time, and that's valuable to me. And so through those connections, through those mentors, they help you with your career, they help you avoid the traps. If you're in trouble, they help you get out of trouble. I get into trouble all the time. And so those are the people who would give you advice. And I think that, and as a mentor, is somebody you build a relationship with, and usually is through working with them, for them. And that's why, again, I urge you to volunteer for special projects and committees, or even fundraising, right? Like some of the banks, huge, big deal for United Way campaign, or juvenile diabetes initiative. Get on board, get involved, because you're going to meet so many other people, and that's how you're going to build those relationships, and they will end up being your mentor over time. But do seek out people, do ask for advice, and the first step is for you to go out to somebody and do work for them, and then ask for advice. And you will be surprised at how generous executives are with their time. I've never asked an executive for coffee that they've turned me down, and I've never turned down anybody for coffee either. So all it takes half an hour coffee. If you don't drink coffee, tea, or Coke, that's fine too.
Always can find something to drink.
Yeah. Or it just keeps the conversation going, right? Because when you say, can I meet you? The people, that sounds serious. But coffee, that's good.
That's how you start with the conversation, and I think to your point is that not only about one mentor, is actually about getting the people, and it could be anybody.
Yeah, like if I look at my mentors, actually a lot of them are not necessarily people who are more senior than me. I actually have a lot of mentors that are peers. I find peers really good mentors because they live the same life as you now, right? Like some senior people, they kind of forgot what it was when they were at your level, so your peers would give you good advice. And then my staff too are my mentors. Basically anybody would give me advice, and a lot of my staff come to me and say, Kelvin, you screwed up here. Oh, really? You could have done better. Okay. And so you need a big network.
That's great. Other things that when I doing research, I found, Kelvin, you have been devoted yourself very much to helping the community and giving back to the community, helping others. So one example is that you founded an organization called Ascent, which is helping the minority ethnics develop their career, moving to management and moving to executives. So can you kind of do a quick introduction about Ascent and also talk a little bit about maybe three key elements that helps Ascent become such a successful organization in the industry?
So there's one thing you should retain tonight is the Ascend Canada, so write it down, ASCEND. So that's a not-for-profit organization we started back in 2012. We've grown our membership to over 2,000 people now. We have a chapter in Toronto and Vancouver. Actually was in Vancouver last week for their annual town hall. And so this Ascend organization is like many community organizations. It's focused on Asian development of Pan-Asian people. But they're not helping you to find a job. Like if you need to find a job, there are other organizations that are really good at that. What we do is for leadership development. So if you have a good job and you say, hey, I want to be better, I want to get more senior, I want to get to an executive position, how do I do that? That's where we come in. And the reason why I think we are good at what we do is when we first launched, we didn't go out seeking individual membership right away. We actually went to company sponsorship. So I went to people I know like Royal Bank. So reached out to Janice Fukakusa over there. Then went to Manulife, went to the accounting firms. And what we wanted to do is we want to partner with companies who believe in diversity in leadership. Because you can be the best employee in the world. If your company doesn't believe in that, then you're screwed, right? So you need to do something different or leave. But so we went to these organizations first, and we said, help us. Number one, give us money, right? That's the most that's important. Help us fund our operations. So luckily they were pretty good. So each year we get about 250,000 to 300,000 from these firms to help us run our organization. And what we do, we give a series of programs. They could be very, very small, like 1 hour. We teach people negotiation skills. Well, how do you negotiate here in corporate Canada? Because as part of a senior leader, you negotiate all the time, right? You negotiate with your staff, you negotiate with your peers, with your externals, you negotiate with everybody. And so you need to know how to negotiate. That would be like an hour session. Well, we have a full day of what we call Executive Insight series, and those are the softer piece of the training. And there we actually get our retired executives from IBM, Cisco, all over, whether it's Canada and the US, they'll fly to Toronto or Vancouver and they'll deliver the session for the entire day. And so I think our success is that because we're catering to that softer side, and we're an inclusive organization, so we're not just if you're not Asian, it's okay. Happy for you to participate. But because a lot of our programs are catered to cultural differences, because that's the biggest barrier for us to actually move up the organization is culturally being different. That's why we say to focus on Pan-Asian. But we deliver good programs. There are programs for everybody, from very, very 1 hour session, like I said. The cost of registration is $10 and comes with food and drinks, to a very expensive session that we partner with Stanford University, which costs $10,000 1 week. Right? So it ranges, but most of the program here in Canada are not more than $20, $30. So I urge you to sign up. I urge you to find out more about it, and I urge you to even volunteer, because as you volunteer, you get to build out your network and work with very senior people, and you learn from them as well.
That's great, especially when you talk about culture. And myself, when I come to Canada about 15 years ago, I've been through a lot of culture, gaps. So before I can really start to develop myself in career. So that's one of the reasons we founded the CPMP, to help the Chinese people grow their career from technical and to be able to understand the mainstream culture and grow their career. So
Can I just talk about culture? Like, culture is a big thing for me. I mean, I remember, my mom is a big influence on me, so she would always say, hey, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Anybody has heard that before? No? Yeah. So it's 2 ears and 1 mouth, you should listen twice and speak once. Okay. And then she always said, oh, don't be the tall tree. You heard about don't be the tall tree, right? Because it would fall down. And so throughout my life, I always be, okay, don't talk. Don't stand tall. And that's very different than the corporate Canadian culture. Like very, very, very different. Like here, to be a leader, to be seen as a leader, you have to speak up in meetings. And I find myself, the biggest challenge I have in a lot of the people that I see in meetings is that they come in, they don't say anything. Right? They're very, very smart, they don't say anything. And then you have somebody else in the room say something, you go, oh, I thought about that. And then everybody goes, ah, great idea. And you go, oh my God, I should have said it. Right? How many of you have thought about that before? Yeah? Right? So then you go, why wouldn't you say anything? And you can't imagine how many times I hear now as a senior leader, I leave the meeting room with my peer and they go, oh, such and such, Jane or John, he didn't say anything. Maybe you shouldn't invite him at the next meeting. Well, of course, why am I inviting people there who's not going to say anything? So if you want to make a difference, if you have an idea, it is culturally accepted here to say something. And I know that, if I talk to my mom says, oh, you're being like boastful. Why are you talking all the time? Don't be loud. And so it's not about that. Or, show respect to your elders, right? And so don't talk back, don't disagree. But here, no, like people want you to challenge them. They want to hear your ideas. So if you're thinking you're being respectful, people see you as not being engaged, not interested, or not smart. So that's the cultural differences we're trying to teach people, is that you need to do that. That's what's important here. I know you all have great ideas, but a lot of us, what we do is after the meeting, we go one-on-one, we talk to people. Oh, we should have done that. And I remember doing that to my boss once, and he goes, why didn't you say anything in the meeting? You're such an idiot. So, okay, I'm not going to be an idiot the next time, so I'm going to speak out. So I think that's what you all need to do. And as you do it more, you become more comfortable, and you can still be quiet at home, that's fine. But in the office, we want you to share your ideas.
That's great. This is exactly what I've been through when I do my MBA. One of the professors in Walkman Business School UFT is telling me they already know the Chinese culture. So the professor told me, you Chinese people, when you talk, you're like this, and then silent all the time, and couple words, and then silent all the time. And we Canadian, when we talk, we're like this, all like very constant with manner. But I don't know, maybe this is not as a joke, but it's actually, I can put it a bit further. Since he said to talk in the public, so in Indian people, they will talk like this, and then before you finish, another person come in and talk again, so you see a lot of overlapping, like a conversation over there. So Indian people always like very active talking, and Canadian will be very good manner, constant talking. And Chinese people, we talk and then silent for a long time, and then we'll talk again. So that's exactly the barrier for many Chinese people in their career.
Yeah, I mean, there's that, and then there's, also, how many of you have heard people say, oh yeah, just put your head down, do good work, people would recognize you, right? Put your head down, do good work, you stay there for the next 20 years. So, so here is, because here, like in our culture, if you say you want something, it seems like you're very aggressive, right? Like it's not seen as good. Obviously, there are different ways of asking for that special assignment, asking for that opportunity. So you need to learn how to ask for that, but you have to ask. Here in Canada, I remember going to a leadership training course. Do you know what they say? The first minute of the training, they say to be a leader, you need 50% capability and 50% aspiration. So if you're the best person in the room, that's only 50%, you failed. 50% is aspiration. You want to I'm not saying that all cultures like that, but here that's the way it is. So you have to want for that role. And then how would the senior leader know that you aspire for that role if you're putting your head down and do work? You have to say it. You have to say, hey, you know what? I do aspire to a more senior role, and I do aspire to develop skills. And make sure you're focused on skill development. A lot of times we focus too much on the title, or we say, oh, I want that promotion, and I ask you, why? And people can't explain to you why. It's about the skills, about your accountabilities, what you want to do. And so you need to be focused on that, and you have to say it. You have to let people know, because nobody's going to tap you on the shoulder. There's no such thing.
That's great. Yes, thanks. So I do have more questions, but I know I run out of time. So I'm sure that the audience also feel the same way. They have more questions. Because of time constraint, we have to leave it here. Thanks for coming, and also hopefully we can invite you again to come back next session in the future, like a dedicated Kelvin Tran session for you. So, okay, so just before we conclude, I just have a small token appreciation from CPMP.
Thanks for having me, and I'm around, so say hi, say hello. I'll be here at the end as well. Thank you so much.
Everyone put another round of applause for both of the gentlemen. So wonderful. So, I carry on two things from this speech. So first of all, Mr. Trump, I will be the #1 booking you for coffee. Number 2 is the communications. So whoever went through the exam for the PMP, you will know one of the questions saying, what's the key responsibility, what is the key role for a PM, a project manager? It's a communication. Not only you need to talk, but also you need to speak the language. So that's also what we did here with the CPMP, that we communicate with the members, that we provide the trainings, and the people. Well, next one I want to invite, she speaks the language of the CPMP, because she is the founder member of the CPMP. She's also our past president. She's with us with a long time as a board of director. She also owning a license. She also owning a professional engineer license. She always dedicated herself with a passion to teaching and sharing her knowledge and working experience. Now everyone, please put your hands together for Paula Zhao.
Good evening, everyone. It's supposed to be Tracy. It's supposed to be Tracy to present. But unfortunately, Tracy was sick today. That's why I have me here on behalf of the board, to present this. It's just the memorable story of the CPMP. Our journey started in October 2005. This picture is the one all people get pass the PMP test, and then they get the PMP credential. So we celebrate. Right after that, we went to the coffee shop, 7 of us, to form the CPMP. That's what we started. So right after that, and we asked ourselves, what did we want? Basically, we want to help each other, because we look forward, after you get the credential, what did you want to do? And we want to help each other in the project management practice for our career development. We came with all the technical background, but we wanted to transit to the management role in Canada. So that's very difficult. But in order to make that transition smoother, so we formed this. So right after that, we started self-learning seminars. That's in October, right after we formed the CPMP. So then we start establish our home. What we call home, we don't have fixed place, no address. It's just the website. Of course, you see this one is very updated one. The old one, the first one, I couldn't find any picture of that. But that's, you know, that's our first home, right? And we started to establish home. We have, that time we don't have the mission at the beginning, but then we have the vision mission. We state our organization structure. We register as a not-for-profit organization. So this is at 1 year anniversary. We start to have a dream. Now everybody talk about the dream. What's our dream? That's we have the dream that one day CPMP becomes the home for Chinese PM practitioners in Canada. It's home for their professional development and career advancement. If you ask me how did we do it right now, I would say very proud of it, what we did. I just give you one example. Someone, a member of us, CPMP, he found a job and somewhere else, left Toronto. But two months later, he wrote email to us. He said, oh, I really missed CPMP because he participated in many seminars. He learned a lot. And he said, I found this organization is very professional, not like the other community associations. So we're so proud of that. And he said, if he come back, he will join us again. And this is the one, just a look back at our history. This is the board, 2006 to 2007. What we have achieved since then, we held over 100 professional seminars, workshops.